Mitakuyepi. Hello, everyone. A long time ago, the land was one big giant continent. And in the beginning, there were mainly plants and animals. And through time, in 5 different areas, humans started to come on the earth. And as they moved on the earth and moved around and met with each other, and they created cultures, and different skin colors were starting to develop because some people lived closer to the sun than others. And hair texture changed and eye color. And all this was because of their environment that they grew up in, their ecosystem, whether it was mountainous or desert or, like I said, close to the sun or far away from the sun. Well, a long time had passed and people were dealing with each other and having communications with each other. And in the beginning, people helped one another. They learned from one another and encouraged one another and respected and honored one another. But as time went by, people began to be selfish. They started to think in a linear way, which means that you only think in one direction, that the further you go, the better you are, and everybody behind you is not as good as you, and thinking like that. And this created a new way of thinking of wanting more, and that if you have more, that you're better, you're smarter. And this started to separate people, and people began to manipulate nature. They were manipulating the environment. They were trying to make it do things that it was not designed to do. They were forcing things to happen. And as a result, they developed a great technology. And again, this was all at the expense of violating nature. And people were using what they developed against each other. And in the Lakota way, whatever you do, this is a communication and how you do it. Whatever you say and how you say it, this is a communication too. And whatever is coming your way, like if somebody's talking to you, and how do you interpret that? That's a communication. So communication includes listening, not just hearing, but listening. And people were not really doing that. They were hearing, but not actively listening. And so wars started to happen. People wanted to take each other's property or land and things like that. And they were using their technology to accomplish that. And in the story, the Lakota Star Knowledge story concerning this, it says that at that time, people could travel through the air and also underground, and they would travel great distances at great speeds. So you can visualize what it must have looked like back then, traveling through the air, traveling through the earth, at really fast speeds to go a long ways. And they were developing their technology to go against each other, to take what the other one has. And this really was throwing the balance of nature off. But only a handful of people were still living in balance with the earth. And as a result of that, they heard the voice of the earth calling them to go to safe places, because she's telling them a cleansing is going to happen, that she's going to reset, do a reboot, so to speak. And so those people who heard her voice and her instructions, they all went to their safe places. Some people, they live in mountains, so they went to really tall mountains. Some people who live in other types of ecosystems, they went to their safe places there. And for Lakota ancestors, they went to a place where they came out in the beginning, the first time, on the surface of the earth. And today that location is in the Black Hills. And people call it Wind Cave. That's where we came out of in the very beginning. When the earth was ready for people to come on the earth, Lakota ancestors came out from this wind cave. So that was a place of safety for us. So our ancestors went back there, because when we came onto the earth, we spread out. So now those who are hearing the voice of the earth are following that instruction. They're going back to that cave and going back in there. That's the safety place where we came from. And then the cleansing started. And in Lakota, we have this organization called Wakantanka. And these are entities who are the wind, the blue that you see in the sky. They are the thunder beings. They are the sun, the moon, the lady who lives in the water. Her name is Unk. They're the earth, the land, and they're the four directions, the four winds. These are all Wakantanka. And so they help the earth to cleanse herself. So all these beings work together. And the result of their work were things like tornadoes, hurricanes, blizzards, floods, earthquakes, firestorms, and all kinds of weird and strange weather that was happening. And this began the cleansing. And so only those who heard the earth's voice were saved. And after a long time, the cleansing was complete, and it was possible to live on the earth again. So people who were saved, they came out of their places of safety. So our Lakota ancestors come out of that cave again. This is the second time, that they're coming out, because the first time was when they first came here, like I said just a little while ago. So they're coming back on the surface of the earth, and everything is different. Everything is brand new. Where there were mountains that used to run east and west, now they are running north and south. And they can see, that it's all new. And everything is different. And so they start to live again on the earth and do their best to continue the way they were living before that cleansing. Now remember, these are people who were still living in balance with nature before the cleansing. These are the only ones that were saved. And so people were separated again, and this is why we have different languages, different cultures, and we get that from our ecosystem that we live in. The Grandmother Earth, she gives us our languages, and this is how we communicate with one another. Among Native American people, we have different cultures, different languages, different perspectives. And so the way we communicate with each other at that time was through a sign language with the hands. Everybody had this common set of symbols and definitions, and that's how we talked with each other. Well, this one day, some eagles were flying around. These are the birds who can fly really high and great distances, and they were shocked because what they were seeing was the land. It's all separate. And other animals were looking for their relatives, and they couldn't find them. They searched everywhere, and they couldn't find them. It's because the land had separated into what it is today. So once the four-legged animals realized something is wrong, that their relatives are gone, they said, well, this is the fault of the two-leggeds, which include humans. Because they violated the earth, nature, they polluted the water, the air, they misused fire. They were the reason why the land was now separated and broken up into different continents. So they decided to call a meeting and say, let's destroy the two-leggeds so this will never happen again. Well, there was a little bird that was listening in on this meeting. It's a magpie. And after the meeting was completed and these four-leggeds were making that decision and they agreed, we're going to wipe out the two-leggeds. So after that meeting was over, the magpie ran over to the winged, the birds, the things that fly. And he said, the four-leggeds, they want to destroy the two-leggeds because it's because of the two-leggeds' violation of nature that everything is changed and they can't find their relatives. So a lot of the birds said, yeah, let's join them. So they were all working up, this big meeting of birds. They were all saying, yeah, let's join them and destroy them so this doesn't happen again. So they were making preparation for war. An owl spoke up. And he said, wait a minute. The two-leggeds, this includes the bears. And the bears represent wisdom. How can we have life on this planet without wisdom? So the other birds were saying, oh yeah, isn't it? That's what we say on the res. Oh yeah, isn't it? So they started to think, what are we going to do? And they came up with the idea from the owl. He suggested, let's have a race. And whoever wins that race will decide what happens to the two-legged. And so the birds decided to fight for the cause of keeping wisdom on this earth. So they called a meeting with the four-leggeds. They said, we know what your intentions are. We know you want to destroy the two-leggeds, but if you do that, you destroy the bears. See, bears, there's a sacred one in the Wakantanka organization. He walks upright, and his name is Hunum, which means two legs. And this guy is the wisdom part of the Wakantanka. So, this is why bears are considered two-legged. So the bird said, let's have a race. And if you guys win, you can go ahead and start your war against the two-legged. But if we win, we have to let the two-legged remain here. And so the four-legged said, okay, let's have this race. So they were going to decide, where are we going to have this race? So the owl said, we'll race around the heart of Grandmother Earth. That's the Lakota name for the Black Hills. A lot of people say Baha Sapa. Baha means butte or hill, and Sapa is black. Or they say Che Sapa. Che is same thing as Baha. It's very similar. But the sacred name is Uchima Khat, the heart of our grandmother Earth. So the owl said, the race will start on the east side of the Black Hills. I'll say Black Hills because that's what most of us know it as. We're going to start on the east side, and we're going to run clockwise around the whole Black Hills 4 times. And whoever crosses the finish line first is going to decide what happens to the 2-leggeds. So the 4-legged said, oh, this will be easy. So you have your mountain lions and all these fierce 4-legged animals, these antelope, these deer and elk and really fast animals. And they thought, yeah, we'll win this easy. So they agreed upon a day and time to begin this race so the animals could prepare themselves. You know, they're going to work out and get ready. And so the time came for the race to begin. So all these fierce-looking animals were on the starting line. And you had the eagles, hawks, all these fierce birds that are really fast. And way at the end of the line, you had that magpie, yeah? The guy who was listening in on the meeting of the 4-legged. He was way at the end. So he was standing there all ready, and all these other animals were looking at him and they were laughing. Who's this guy? What chance does he have? They all laugh at him and make fun of him because magpies, they chatter away all the time and they're always kind of a nuisance to some people. So here he is standing on the start line too. But it didn't bother him. Yeah, it didn't faze him. He's standing there ready to start the race. And sure enough, the owl called it. They all took off. You know, they went around the Black Hills. They were really going. Everybody wanted to win so bad for their cause. They were running just fast and hard, digging into the earth with their hooves. Yeah, the 4-legged animals. And whenever they would come around the north part, and getting ready to come to that east side where they started, right around that curve, they would really kick in the ground, yeah, just to really move. And every time they came around at this area, this pile of dirt grew taller and taller and taller until it eventually became a mountain. And today this is called Matopaha, Bear Butte. And it's to honor Hunum, the giant bear who walked upright, as he is the representative of wisdom. After the second time, some animals started to fall by the wayside. They were running the whole day, yeah, for 2 days, not stopping for drinking anything or eating anything. And their hooves, for the 4-legged, some of them, their hooves were splitting open. So this racetrack, let's call it a racetrack now, it started to have this pinkish color. This is from the blood of those animals. They were running and running, their hooves broke open, but they were still running until they died. And you can still see that racetrack from the sky. You can see that pink road that goes all around the Black Hills. This is from the blood of the hooves of the animals who ran that race. And notice how the Black Hills looks like a human heart. So this is that racetrack. So by the third time they came around, on that last curve, where they would really dig in to the earth, this pile of dirt was getting bigger and bigger. It was really getting tall. And they would really come through again. And by the time of the last round, almost all of the animals had died. There was only a buffalo, and guess who? This little magpie. They were the last two. So they were really cruising around, coming around the Black Hills and coming from the north, and the buffalo turned back to see who's back there, and he sees this magpie right behind him the whole time. And so this buffalo, he starts laughing, and he says, "See this off guy here." And so he says, "I'm gonna win this easy." So he starts to, I'll walk and I'll still win this race. So he slowed down enough so the magpie caught up to the buffalo. And then he flew up and landed on the hump of the buffalo and was just sitting up there. And so the buffalo turned around and said, "Ha ha, he must have fell. He's done. Ha, I'm the winner." So he just started to trot, to the finish line. Now here comes that finish line. It's not that far away. The buffalo's getting really close, and he's starting to stroll, And then just when they get there, the magpie flies over, wins the race. So that's why we're still here. Thanks to this little magpie. And after that, the animals that were not in the race, they all came together and had a big meeting. And four-legged spokesman, he said, "Okay, we will abide by the result. However, we want to add one condition." So the winged, they said, "Okay, what is it?" The four-legged representative said, "The two-leggeds have to be responsible to care for the earth, to care for all of us, to maintain nature, which includes animals, the plants, that the two-leggeds establish a communication to everything and be mindful of it, take care of it, because if they violate that, then the deal is off. We will destroy them." So the winged said, "Okay, we will agree to that. And if the humans break that agreement, we will lead the attack to wipe them off the earth." So the four-leggeds, they said, "Ho hechetuelo." That's the way it is. And the bird said, "Ha hechetu." That's the truth. So everybody went to their tioshpais, their homes. And let's see what the two-leggeds do. Specifically, the humans. What do you think about that? It's a very old story. This is saying a lot of things. And I want to discuss that now. Earlier, I talked about how the land was one. Well, that's scientifically proven now. And think about when the humans came here and how they developed. That in the beginning, they embraced this concept, they lived this concept that everything is connected, that we communicate with each other, that we help one another. And then what happened? That leads to this next cleansing. And also when the Lakota worked together, look at what happened in this story. Fires were happening, earthquakes were happening, floods were happening, gigantic storms were happening. And look at it again. It kind of paints a story of doom and gloom, doesn't it? But yet there were survivors. How did they survive? They heard the voice of the earth telling them where to go for safety. How did that happen? All of creation has a part of the earth inside of them. This is how she talks to us. This is our connection. How do we hear that voice? We do it by living in a healthy way, trying our best to take care of ourselves physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, that we establish a communication with ourselves, that we honor ourselves, respect ourselves, and love ourselves, and trust ourselves. This is what creates peace inside of us. That's what these survivors did. That's how they heard the voice of the earth. It starts within. This is one of the stories that explains how reality begins within. This is how we live in a healthy way. In this way, we're connected with all of nature. We're mindful of it. We respect it. And sometimes that means we might have to manage things so something doesn't overpopulate, which means we have to be this way to ourselves first, because reality begins within. And then we're mindful. Yeah? We see the earth, we talk to the earth, and she hears us because she's in here. So that's how we live with the earth. And that's what these people did. That's how they survived. Now remember, I said only a handful of people live this way. That's among every group of people. Only a handful of this people. Only a handful of that people. Every group, or race if you want to call it, they all had a small group of survivors. This means that most of the people in each group were lost in this cleansing. And that same thing applies to Lakota people. Most Lakota ancestors were destroyed in that cleansing. Only a handful of our ancestors lived in peace and harmony with the earth. Only a handful. Most of them were gone because they were selfish too. So that's how we survive. That's how we live. But we shouldn't wait until it looks like another one's coming, yeah? We can do that right now. Establish peace within you. Because this sends out a big energy blast. It affects everything around us because you have it inside of you. How you are inside of you is in your communication. So when we live to try for establish peace with ourselves, it's automatically making an impact with the world around us. This is hope. This is power. This is healthy. This is how we live with ourselves and with each other and with all of life. Plants, animals, everything. We all need earth, wind, and fire and water to live. So when we live this way, we honor that. We don't misuse the water. We don't pollute it. We take care of it. We give thanks to it. Includes the fire, includes the earth and the air. As we all bleed red, this is the color of life. So we can do this now and still live a peaceful life regardless of what's happening around us in this world. We can still have this freedom within. And so when we look at the world, we know what to pray for, to send them our energies, to influence them with love. This is the way to live. So it's not doom and gloom. We can still play a role here, like our ancestors, those who survived because they talked with nature. First, they established a peace within themselves, because that's how you hear it. Talk back. Isn't that cool? We can do this. We all have that capability to do that. We are here. This is a blessing. You are a blessing. You are worth it. You have a lot of power, potential in you. So I encourage you to think about these things. And if you choose this path, this is a path of life, of learning from difficulty, because it includes difficulty, but from learning from it and making the best of it. And this is the path of love. Chankuluta. That translates into red road, but red means life. This is love. And we learn. To live is to love, is to learn, is to love, is to live. It all goes together. I encourage you with that, to do that. Ching Mitakuyepi chaheche. Because we're all related. We're all connected to each other, not just people, everything in life, the plants, everything. What we do affects not only ourselves, it affects everything around us. We will have difficulty, but that's okay. We can learn from that. And when we learn from that, it was a good day. And these two monuments are a reminder for us and our responsibility to each other, to ourselves, and to all of nature and everything around us. That's the way it is, everyone.